Ever wonder how massive online stores or social networks manage just an insane amount of information without completely collapsing? Well, it all comes down to the blueprint. Today, we're going to break down the entity relationship model, not as some dry, technical diagram, but as the master plan that brings beautiful order to data chaos. Let's dive in.
Just think about that for a second. You've got millions of customers, each with their own names, addresses, and payment info. They're buying millions of different products, creating millions of unique orders. It's a gigantic puzzle, right? So how do you keep it all straight? The secret is having a brilliant plan before you ever start building anything.
Because without a plan, you get total data chaos. You're talking unstructured lists, connections that make no sense, a system that's just impossible to navigate. But with a good plan, you get data clarity. You get an organized blueprint with clear pathways that anyone on the team can look at and instantly understand. And that is the power we're going to unlock today. So, here's our roadmap. First, we'll talk about this whole blueprint for data idea. Then, we'll get into the core objects, which we call entities. After that, the details about them, the attributes. Then, how we connect everything with relationships. We'll put it all together to see the complete picture. And finally, we'll talk about why this whole thing is so darn important. All right, first up, a blueprint for data. Let's get to the heart of this concept. So, the entity relationship model, or ER model for short. This isn't some newfangled idea. It was actually developed way back in 1976 by a guy named Peter Chen. And its purpose is so simple but so profound. It's a tool to design and visualize the structure of your data, to literally draw it out before you write a single line of code. It's all about planning ahead.
And here it is. This is the key to understanding absolutely everything we're going to talk about. Just think of a city map. The main structures you see, the big buildings, those are your entities. All the little details about those buildings, the address, the number of floors, those are the attributes. And the roads that connect all the buildings together, you guessed it, those are the relationships. Keep this one analogy in mind and the whole model just clicks into place.
Okay, let's dive into our first component, the core objects, or entities. Time to identify the buildings on our map. So what in the world is an entity? Well, it's actually super simple. It's any real-world thing or concept that we need to store information about. So going back to our online store example, the most obvious entities are the customer, the product they want to buy, and the order they create. That's it. They're the main nouns of our system. Now, here's a neat little detail. Not all entities are created equal. You have a strong entity, like a customer. A customer can exist in the system all by themselves, right? But then you have a weak entity, which depends on another one to even exist. Think about an order item. That single line on your Amazon receipt? That line item makes no sense on its own. It has to belong to a main order. It's totally dependent. Okay, so we've got our buildings. Now we need to add the defining details, the attributes. This is how we describe all the important properties of our objects.
And to describe these entities, we got this whole toolkit of different attribute types. Some are keys, like a unique customer ID that nobody else has. Some are simple, like a phone number that can't be broken down further. Others are composite, like a full name which you can split into first and last. You can even have an attribute that's derived, like calculating someone's age based on their date of birth. The whole point is to capture every little detail that matters.
All right, our buildings are full of details. Now it's time to build the roads. Let's talk about making the connections, or as we call them, relationships. So a relationship is pretty much what it sounds like. It's the action, the verb that connects our entities. If customer and order are the nouns in our story, the relationship is the word places. A customer places an order. It's that active link that brings our whole blueprint to life. The simplest kind of connection is a one-to-one relationship. Think about it. One person can have exactly one passport, and that passport belongs to only that one person. It's a direct, exclusive link, nice and simple. What's way more common, though, is one-to-many. One single customer can, over time, place many, many different orders, but each of those individual orders belongs to only that one customer. You see this pattern everywhere in data. And then we get to the really interesting one, many-to-many. The classic example is a university. You've got many students who can enroll in many different courses. And at the same time, any single course is going to have many students in it. The connection is a two-way street. Okay, we've got all of our pieces. We have entities, attributes, and relationships. It is finally time to assemble the complete picture and look at our final blueprint.
And you know what? The process is refreshingly straightforward. It's basically a three-step dance. First, you figure out your main objects, your entities. Second, you list out all their important properties, the attributes. And third, you just link them all together with relationships. That's it.
And voila! Here's our online store blueprint, boiled down to its essence. A customer places an order, and that order contains a product. Do you see how that just reads like a simple, clear sentence? That is the clarity, the storytelling power that the ER model gives you.
Which brings us to our last big question. Why does this blueprint even matter? What's the real-world payoff for doing all this planning work up front?
Oh, the benefits are huge. First, it brings clarity. Everyone on the team, whether they're a coder or not, can look at the diagram and get it. It also breaks down massively complex systems into simple, manageable pieces. This helps everyone collaborate, and maybe most importantly, it leads to incredible efficiency. It helps prevent having the same data copied all over the place, and make sure your information stays consistent and reliable.
So let's do a super quick recap of the core lingo. We have the entity, which is our main object, like a customer. We have the attribute, which is a property, like their name or email. We have the relationship, which is the connection, like customer places order. And finally, cardinality, which is just a fancy word for how many are connected. Is it one-to-one, one-to-many, or many-to-many? Look, if you remember nothing else from all this, just remember this simple mapping right here. An entity is just an object. An attribute is a property of that object. And a relationship is the connection between those objects. It honestly is that straightforward. By understanding these simple ideas, you've basically learned the fundamentals of data architecture. You can now look at almost any complex system out there, from your social media feed to a library catalog, and start to see the hidden blueprint underneath it all. So I guess that just leaves one final question for you. Now that you know how to sketch the plan, what system would you design first?